Good. Okay, cool. So, thanks all for being here. I am so excited to introduce Susan and Lisa. Susan, I've never met before, but I can tell she's lovely from her reputation. And Lisa, I know, and she's a troublemaker, also lovely in the good trouble way. So we always appreciate that as well. And you might notice it does not look like a traditional public library potentially that they're coming to you from. So I am super excited to let them kind of take this away and talk to you about talk to all of us about a couple of things. Specifically, though, Susan and Lisa, I think it would be really great if you could talk about some of these unique angles you have on your project. One of which is talk about being in local government. That's interesting because some libraries are and some libraries aren't, and I know that presents unique challenges. Also, I know we are intrigued at, you're not in the library. How's that working out? So if you could tell us that, and then of course we want to know about your successes, but please tell us the funny fails as well. We want to know. Um, so with that, I'm going to let you folks take it away. Thanks so much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I do have a PowerPoint that I'll share, but just do quick introductions. Hey, I'm Susan Parmalee. I'm the Sustainability Program Manager for the City of South Portland. And
I'm Lisa Joyce, the Outreach Librarian at South Portland Public Library.
And we are coming to you from the South Portland Electric Tool Library. So I'll do my slideshow, but I'll make sure you guys get the tour, which will not take long at all. Okay, let me just share my screen.
And just to clarify, would you like questions throughout or at the end?
I think at the end, if that's okay.
Yeah, no problem. But everyone, really, let's get ready to give them a fun, hard time.
Okay, can everyone see my beautiful slideshow? Great. Okay, so we're here to talk to you about the South Portland Electric Tool Library. Also though, please let me know if you have any trouble hearing me because we are at a transfer station, so things can get a little bit loud. Let us know, we can close the door and try to make it a little bit less noisy. Okay, so just a quick overview. So the Electric Tool Library provides South Portland residents with the opportunity to borrow electric lawn equipment, specifically free of charge. So we have lawn mowers, leaf blowers, string trimmers, edgers, and hedge trimmers. And all of that can be borrowed for a period of 1 week. You can see us inside, but this is a picture of the outside of our little 8x12 shed that is the Electric Tool Library. All right, so just some background information on why we decided to do this. So the idea came from the city's climate action plan, which is called One Climate Future. And the big overarching goal of this plan is to reduce the city's greenhouse gas emissions 80% by 2050. And to reach that goal, we have a lot of smaller action items to put into place. And the one that is most related to the tool library is fostering a sharing economy through lending libraries. So our hope is that folks will be able to borrow this electric lawn equipment instead of needing to go out and buy their own. And then in addition to that, it turns out that gas-powered lawn equipment is really highly polluting. And we like to throw out this big statistic that an hour of gas-powered lawnmower use is the air pollution equivalent of driving, I say I'm blocking it, is it 300 miles? But an hour of gas-powered lawn or leaf blower use is the equivalent of driving 1,100 miles, which is so bad. So we're really trying to encourage people to switch to electric. And it's not just because of the greenhouse gas emissions. There's a whole bunch of other pollutants that are part of that. So we're trying to improve air quality as well as soil quality. So how are we able to put this plan into motion? So the tool library was mostly funded by a DEP waste diversion grant. And I don't know if you all are familiar with this grant, but twice a year, the DEP does the waste diversion grant, and it's like March or April, and then September usually is when the second one comes out. And it's for waste diversion projects up to $40,000. They don't do it for like employees or continued funding, but capital costs is what it's supposed to be for. So we applied for that grant and received it for the tool library. And we use that money to purchase the equipment, which initially is 6 lawnmowers, 6 leaf blowers, 2 edgers, 2 hedge trimmers, and 2 string trimmers. So 18 total pieces of equipment. And then we had to buy the lovely shed that we were in, as well as all of the hooks and shelving to make sure that it made sense for all of the equipment. And then the installation of electricity, which was extended from the swap shop next door, as well as the internet connection. And we actually had to run an Ethernet cord into the shed because we rely on the library's system and we need consistent internet access that the Wi-Fi just wasn't giving us. So that's what the funding went towards. And then additionally, we have an electric tool library manager who is here 2 days a week. And for that position, we use seasonal staff funding that was actually from the Public Works Department. Okay, so how does it work? So like I mentioned, it's all through the library system. So each piece of equipment has a barcode on it. And it's all signed out through that. And if folks wanted to reserve a piece of equipment, that is also done through the library system. This is actually our first year using the library hold system. So it's been a little bit of a learning curve. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But that's how everything is done. When you come to pick up your lawnmower or whatever piece you're getting, you will get that as well as a battery and a rapid charger. And the tool library manager will give you a demonstration on how to use that in case you're unfamiliar with the equipment. We also have a liability waiver for folks to sign. And I'd be happy to share that later if folks wanted some idea of what was included in it. But basically, if you get hurt using the equipment, that's not the city's responsibility. And it also includes if you return equipment late, there's a $1 per day fee. And then on top of that, it talks a little bit about the process for lost, stolen, or damaged equipment. And that process we went back and forth on a little bit, trying to decide how to make sure people would actually return equipment. We were concerned about it because it is pretty expensive. Some of our lawnmowers are around like $700 total. So we considered having people have provide like a credit card information with a Square reader, and it got too complicated. And we decided that we were going to see how it goes before we decided people weren't going to return equipment. So it's just, if you don't return it, you will, after 30 days, you'll receive a bill from us. And then for damaged equipment, if it's like so badly damaged that it's unusable, then you will receive a bill. But if something happens that's just wear and tear, like we've had a lawnmower that someone hit a rock and it bent the blade, and that kind of stuff happens, you won't be charged for that kind of stuff. We'll deal with that and replace it. And that's just the picture I have up is of the South Portland Library website. They have a neat little tab on the side that links directly to it, which makes it really easy and helpful for us to point people in the direction of how to see what's available and how to reserve the equipment. So how is it going? It's going really well. It's been an extremely popular program, which we are thrilled about. I don't have any numbers for this year yet, but last year we opened in June and we closed in November. We were open for a period of 24 weeks and there were 324 checkouts, which was awesome. And based on the waivers, we think probably around like 130 people checked out equipment. So there are several people that checked out pieces over and over again. And then at the end of the season, we sent out a feedback survey just to get an idea of how it went, how well the equipment worked, any requests or changes that people thought we should make. We sent it out to anyone that gave us their email, which was like a little over 100 people, and we actually got 60 responses, which is an excellent survey response rate from the city perspective. And it was almost entirely really positive feedback. The most common request that we got was that we make the system reservable through the library system because it wasn't last year, as I mentioned, and that we get more pieces of equipment. So overall, really great. The lawnmowers were definitely the most popular piece. And then the string trimmers and hedge trimmers were next because we only had 2 of them and we still had over 40 checkouts in that 24-week period. So yeah, really great. We did face some challenges with implementation. The main one that we have had is the location of the tool shed. So we ended up putting it at the transfer station next to our swap shop. And the reason that we did this is because we figured swap shop and a tool lending library had kind of a similar idea behind them. It might attract a similar crowd. A lot of people come to the transfer station, so we thought it might be helpful for exposure. And that's been the case. We have had a lot of people just wander over and say, hey, what is this? Which has been great. But since we're located at the transfer station, we are limited to the transfer station hours, which is 8 to 3:30 Tuesday through Saturday, which means if you work like a typical 9 to 5, Saturday is really the only day that you can come. And that gets really challenging, especially in summer when people go away and then those folks can't really utilize the system. Additionally, having the shed in a separate location from the library has had some challenges. Part of it's that people come and want to check it out, but maybe they don't have a library card. We can't give them a library card. We have to send them over to the library. Or if people have a certain amount of fees and they can't check out more, they can't pay it here. They have to go to the library. And now this year with the hold system, what we're finding is you can't make the pickup location, this tool shed. It's just not possible through the system. So when you put something on hold, it will tell you to pick it up at the main library. And it won't be there. So far, we haven't heard of a lot of people going there. We think for the most part, people know, but when a hold comes up, we do end up giving people a call to let them know that their equipment's available, but also they need to come to the transfer station to come pick it up. Additionally, staffing has been a challenge. So our first year, we had 2 interns and they were great, but then the fall came and they went back to school and we wanted to keep the tools, the electric tool library open throughout the fall. So we kind of struggled to find someone that was able to work, you know, a Saturday and then another day of the week, kind of in the middle of the day. That's a tough schedule. And for a while I was working the tool library until we were able to find someone who could fill in. And luckily at this point, we have found someone whose schedule it does work for. But if they, you know, if things change for them or they move on to a different position, then I anticipate that we will have trouble filling that position again. And then additionally, the wait list is the last one that I'll talk about. So I put a little picture of our paper wait list from last year, which is just like scribbling down names and phone numbers, like whether we've given them a call, are they on their way? Sometimes someone would say like, "Ooh, I want it, but I can't come today, but I don't want to be put on the bottom of the list." So we'd like go to the next person and write a little note that we should actually call this person next. It got very confusing. So we're really happy to be using the library waitlist system this year. However, as people, both the tool library manager and myself we were not familiar with the library system. So there have been some growing pains in just figuring out how to use Sierra. Yeah, the correct way to do it, and figuring out how to make something that's intended for books in a specific location work for lawn equipment in a totally different location. So those have been the main challenges, but we're working through them and none of it's been insurmountable. So yeah, that's overall what I had. But happy to answer any questions. I don't know if I covered everything that you mentioned in the beginning. So yeah.
So I just want to add one quirky thing. Because the tool library is using Minerva, part of your Minerva agreement is that it will be a city or library employee. So we cannot staff the tool library with volunteers.
Right.
It does have to be City of South Portland employees. So that is kind of a not logical thought. It would be much easier if we could do it but because of the Minerva borrowing agreement, you do have to be an employee of the City of South Portland or Curtis Memorial Library or whatever. I think you also asked about partnering with city departments. Right, Hazel?
Yep, I did.
That's kind of my thing. And I've been at South Portland a long time. And those of you who are city departments as libraries, sometimes we're at the tail end of the list. We're not like sexy like Public Works or Parks, or the guys at the plows are always the best. And we're just kind of those people in that place that do people really use a library anymore? For a long time, people thought that way. And so I kind of roped my library director into trying to partner with city departments about 3 years ago, right after coming out of COVID. And I think we have done a pretty good job. We have partnered, there are 14 departments in the city of South Portland. We have partnered in 3 years with 12 of them in a significant way, either helping them to set this up. This is the farthest we've gone, but we do a lot of programming with them as well. We allow them to put surveys out. We help promote the surveys. We do all sorts of things. We loan them space in our community room. And that has really been huge for us. I think other departments see us very differently now. We're talked about a lot more. When I go into City Hall, the people at the desk in the city clerk's office, which is the first one you hit when I go in, are like, you guys, what are you doing? You know, so-and-so is over there, and this one's over there, and that one's over there. You guys are amazing. They never used to say that about us. They never even used to know who we were. So for us, it has been a wonderful partnership with all the different departments. The two that we work most closely with are sustainability and planning. And we are in the middle of a new comp plan, which many of you also are in the middle of or will soon be. And we have had some wonderful programs. We had one on ADUs, which you can all see if you would like. It's on our website. We had 140 people explaining the new ADU ordinance in South Portland. And not a single ugly person was there. Nobody yelled, nobody screamed, nobody told us it was a terrible thing. So that was a really big deal in South Portland, Susan will tell you. We also did a great one on how to winterize your house, how to use, solar panels, all of that. And we had a really good response to that as well. We also work really closely with our cable access channel, who films many or most of these so that they can go up on the SPC TV so that people who can't get here can watch them as well. And other departments can take them and put the link on their website. So that's just a couple of things about partnering with other departments, and it's really fun.
actually our tool library manager also works for the South Portland Public Access. So that's been really
Yeah.
great. And he took some time to make clips of how to use all the equipment and put it up on SBC TV. So that's been a great partnership as well. But yes, the library has been so helpful, and I have reached out so many times with the tiniest questions, and they've always been like so incredibly willing to help, and happy to work to make this program successful. And it has been a really great partnership.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for that overview. Maybe how about for now I have you guys stop sharing your screen, and just so we can see, I bet there'll be some questions here that you'll wanna see the faces of, right? If you're like, oh, I'm gonna come back to you later. I'll start as that target to open it up, but I hope you all are marinating on some of the other questions. So just to clarify, so again, this is South Portland, Maine in the US. And you, just in case, I don't know, whoever's watching this later, your library, is your library a city department?
Yes.
Okay.
And we are a town of 27, we just moved to 27 from 26,000 people. So we are not a big, we're not Portland, we're a small town. And we can do this. We are there, but I will say we have an amazing sustainability department, and they are so far ahead on climate goals. Please take a look at their website. If you are interested in that sort of thing, they really do set the bar for the state of Maine.
I'm a fan. So then a couple of questions. So your state department. So I know in the past, sometimes the city departments, you hear issues with they're worried about being sued, or there are issues associated with, you touched on this a little, Lisa, of privacy concerns with sharing from, library member records versus outside. Can you touch on either of those points?
Sure. So as I said, city employee, they were
Mhm.
all trained in library records. And one of the good things is state law for libraries, if items aren't returned, there is no state law for returning a leaf blower, but there is a state law concerning return of items to that are library, considered library items. So there is a little more meat behind if you don't return it, we can send the police to get it if we wanted to. We're not going to do that.
Didn't know
But
that.
so that's a really good thing, which helps.
Yes, yeah.
And these guys all know that they have all been trained in, not sharing what people take or any of that sort of thing. So yes, yeah.
Yeah, we don't do anything other than check in and out items. I think the most I do is tell people that they have something else on hold and to go to the library, but no other, it's not for us. So we're staying in our lane.
But it did help us up our library cards. Because we did have people who and they were very proud to say, the only reason I'm walking in this building is so I can get a lawnmower, which was really kind of funny and have to laugh about it.
Yeah, great testimonial, right?
Yeah.
All right, folks, I know I'm not the only one with questions. Anyone, feel free to come unmute. You don't even have to show your face if you don't want to, but feel free if you don't have audio, I know some of you are probably on desk, feel free to text too. All right, while we're waiting, I'm just going to keep asking.
Go for it.
So you mentioned the DEP waste diversion grant. Were you able to apply to that because you were a city department, or did you have to have a partnership with a nonprofit, or was it kind of open to anyone?
It is, I'm fairly certain, open to anyone. It's definitely any municipality, but also community groups are encouraged to apply as well.
Yeah.
So I know we haven't applied, but the Waste Reduction Committee is one of the South Portland committees, and they've considered applying as a committee themselves, but it doesn't have to be related to a municipality. I even think a business has gotten one to help with e-waste recycling. So Yeah, they're open and it's a relatively easy process as far as grants go. A lot less is required of the application and the reporting requirements. So if it's something that you feel like might fit a program that you're interested in, or maybe you want to start an electric tool library, highly recommend.
Awesome. If you get a chance, maybe you could send that to the list if it's not competing with you in the future.
Sure, yeah.
I think that would be wonderful.
So
Because
I'm sorry,
Go
can I
ahead.
just clarify? So it was a sustainability committee that went for this, that applied for this grant, not the library.
Right,
Or
it was
was
the sustainability department.
Gotcha.
we have another question from chat. You mentioned waivers. Do your waivers cover all pieces of equipment, or do you have individual waivers for each type of equipment?
So it's for all pieces of equipment. It's pretty general waiver. Again, happy to share. We had our legal team look over it a few times. So as far as we can tell, we haven't had any issues with it, and it's a solid waiver to use for this type of program.
So it is Corporation Counsel for the city of South Portland. So it's under municipal law.
Yes.
And it falls under Maine municipal law. So if you are in the state of Maine, it would probably be very close to what you wanted to do.
We
So
love that recommendability.
I'm sorry, I'm just butting in. I hope that's okay.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Okay. So I'm trying to get a sense of the of the process by which somebody is borrowing this through the library's website,
Yeah, you
right? Through
Go
the
on
library
Minerva.
catalog. Yep. And then so if I put it on hold, and so then the library calls me to say it's ready for pickup, and then I go to not the library but to somewhere else to pick it up.
So you'll get an email through the library.
Okay.
But the employee here will give you a call to let you know your piece of equipment is ready. Come pick it up at the tool library.
Okay. Okay. I'm just,
You saw our library. You went on the
I
tour.
did. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We really have no place to store anything.
Yeah. Right.
So it would
Yes.
be lovely if they could be at the library.
Yep.
We have no place to store anything, and this is very sad to say. The transfer station is much safer than the library. So
Mhm.
like if we had the shed at the library, it would not be as safe as it is here. Because here it's, all fenced in, and there is a
Ah.
lot of like cameras and all of the rest of it. So that is another piece of that puzzle that maybe we didn't talk about before.
Okay, that's helpful. Because we're talking about maybe getting a shed, so that's like in the works. But that the camera thing is an interesting consideration. So okay.
Yeah, and also there was some concern about storing lithium batteries in the library proper
Okay.
because of events last year with e-bike batteries. And so that was another slight issue that was spoken about, but easily rectified by being here.
So I'm sorry, is that a municipal restriction on the lithium batteries, or is that
No,
or a state restriction? That was just
There were just
particular to.
there were a lot of articles about spontaneous combustion of lithium
Right.
batteries.
Right. Okay.
And in a library, that would really be not good.
Right. Fair.
Yes, yeah, especially since our library does not have a sprinkler system.
Okay.
So
you mentioned holds. Are you treating them like books where you can't request a book for a specific date, but you can say, I would like to be in the queue for this? Or are you doing specific date holds?
Nope, it's just a queue. First one that comes in will go to the first person at the top of the list. We do have two different kinds of mowers, which has made things a little confusing for folks because one is a mulching lawnmower and one is a more standard lawnmower. So if you reserve a mower, it's one or the other. You are not in line for all of the mowers.
Yeah.
what kind of training needs to happen for the patron who's checking it out? Does
Yeah, we have the tool library manager give them a demonstration on how to use the equipment. It's
Mhm.
all very easy to use, which is great, and one of the benefits of electric lawn equipment. But basically they show you the battery, show you how to tell how charged it is, show you how to charge it with the charger, show you how to put it into the piece of equipment and how to start it. And or how to adjust it to make sure it's to your proper size. And then you will try using it, and you do it correctly, you can take it home.
Well, I'll toss something in there. I helped start and run a tool library, and it's still going, although I was in Seattle. I'm now in New Hampshire. One of the things we ran into with electric lawnmowers, I think the thing that would put the most out of service were people trying to cut grass at the especially beginning of the season for the first time that was too long. So I'd recommend to your tool library manager and your team, that's one of the things, like basically make sure people are not trying to run an electric lawnmower over, 2 foot, 3 foot high grass. Maybe borrow one of your string trimmers to, bring it down to size first. Just as that was, rocks, as you mentioned, was also one of the things. But yeah, we had someone come in almost crying as they, burned out the electric lawnmower, and they're like, if I could afford it, I'd replace it. And, so, we were pretty flexible. This was not part of the public library as an independent tool library, but that tends to be what took out a few of our electric lawnmowers.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good recommendation. We do show them for the lawnmowers, the height. And we always recommend that they put it on the highest, which is 4 inches, but just because that's what's best from an environmental perspective as well.
absolutely.
So I think most of them are already set to that. So if they'll have to go through the action of making it lower. But
Yeah, no,
that's a
I'm
good
saying
recommendation.
even just trying to cut like 3 foot high grass, we had multiple people doing it. No matter the setting, it doesn't matter. So
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead. But that's a good point too.
so do you find that there needs to be a lot of maintenance associated with this tool library, like just the upkeep of the equipment?
We've actually had very little maintenance, which, yeah, we are very grateful for. The bent blade has really been the only thing that we needed to get fixed so far. And then at the end of the season, we kind of like gave them all a scrub down, I guess you could say, not with a lot of water because they are electric. But that's really been it. Other than when people return equipment, sometimes it's covered in grass and we have to give it a wipe down. But when it's fresh, it's not that difficult to do. It's when it's really stuck on at the end of the year that it's more of a process. But the maintenance for electric lawn equipment is just so much less than that of gas powered equipment that it hasn't been an issue. And with the string trimmers, we are going to have to get more string eventually, but we haven't hit that point yet. So there aren't a lot of ongoing expenses until we need another battery, but hopefully it will be years before that happens. Again, knock on wood.
On the string trimmers, I don't know if this will work for yours. I saw you're using the Ego brand, it looked like. We put blades in instead of, we put just plastic blades, but just because the string just goes, and then more microplastics. Not that the plastic blades don't have microplastics, but we haven't had to replace ours yet, and they just keep going. The other thing is I was curious about, did you get from where you bought it, did you get like the extended warranty on it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we do have an extended warranty on all the pieces of equipment, and they are all Ego brand, as you mentioned, and it's just easier if everything's the same brand. All of the batteries are compatible. We have had people try to donate equipment to us, which is really nice, but we just want to make sure whatever product we are giving to people is something that we feel confident in. So yeah, we've kept it all the same pieces of equipment. That is interesting with the microplastics, though. I hadn't thought about that.
I mean, they're everywhere. So yeah. We had a scythe at the main tool library that was like super popular, Jean, especially for that 3-foot tall grass, I will say, and the sharpening stone, but we do not have that at the public library.
We
For various
we had multiple as well of those. So yes, thank you for reminding. Totally forgot about that. Also great for Halloween costumes.
Yeah, all sorts of things. All sorts of things. So I will say on the lithium battery note, if you do have concerns about that, the Shareable just did a great series working with a lot of different tool libraries to kind of highlight some of things. And it ends up, there was a person on there who in their previous life knew all about shipping containers and lithium batteries. So I will send that series to the list because I'm also going to query that, being like, tell me what I don't know that I might want to know. I think that could be useful for all of us just to be aware of.
Hazel, I just want to say that sustainability has chosen to use a local provider, not a big box store. And I'll let Susan talk about that and why they made that decision. But I think it was the absolute right decision.
Yeah, so we ended up, well, we talked to Ego directly about getting the equipment, and we did end up getting a deal because we bought so much at one time. And they have, you know, they sell out of a few different stores, but we ended up purchasing our equipment from Main Hardware, a local hardware store in Portland, and they've been fantastic. They've been so easy to communicate with, delivered all of the equipment to us for free. And then we had a trouble with one lawnmower kind of right out of the box. Took it back, no problem, replaced it, just so easy to work with. Yes, it was absolutely the right move. And they also do repairs at Main Hardware. So again, luckily it hasn't been too much of an issue yet, but it would be so easy to bring it back to them, and just great customer service.
That's a great point. That was going to be my follow-up question, was repairs and where you were getting that. So thank you for that. Another question I have just is very specific, but tell me about your edger. What is an electric edger? I have no idea what this thing is.
Well, I'm out of them right now.
Doing lawn edging.
An edger is like a weed whacker, but vertical instead of horizontal, if that makes sense.
Oh, I've seen those things. Okay.
For doing lawn edges and garden edges.
I mean, I knew
to get you that nice,
yeah, I mean, I knew the hand version. I was just like, what does the electric version look like?
Yes. And that actually has a blade instead of the strings, like the string trimmer. So
okay,
they work well.
Do your leaf blower, so we got converted, we have one leaf blower and one leaf vacuum. And I always encourage people to take the leaf vacuum because it can mulch as well as suck up things from your gutters. Are you finding, and so now I think we've converted everyone to the leaf vacuum other than the leaf blower. So I might pass on that leaf blower. It was donated versus the leaf vacuum we purchased. What are you finding people, I mean, I see them all over, but are you finding the leaf blowers, they just blow, right? Not vacuum? And
yeah, we don't have any
okay.
leaf vacuums. So that's a really great idea. We do have the mulching lawnmower, and early spring and into fall is when people really start getting the mulcher, and yeah, clearly just going at a pile of leaves, and it works great. And I definitely saw people getting a leaf blower along with the mulcher, but all in one would be great. We would love to get more equipment and expand. We'll just have to, it's a funding restriction at this point, and space.
I was gonna say, do you have space in your little shed? And do you think there's willpower to have a series of sheds or et cetera? You know, what's the thought process here on this pilot?
Yeah, we're making do with the space we have. I don't know if I can.
It might be funny for you to see.
This is the leaf blower wall.
You've got so much more. You can pack it in. I see it.
Oh yeah, there's tons of room in there. We started with a closet as well, so that closet was, we had to take stuff out of the closet.
If you get rolling shelves and then a little ramp.
Did that too. That was at our bigger location. We still needed that. Absolutely. Uh-oh, I think we might have lost
Yeah, I think we did
our
lose them.
signal.
Oh no. I had more questions. Staff
I
is
think it's you.
volunteer. I was gonna say
Someone must have.
who else we're gonna get them back. I have a feeling they're just rebooting here. I see a few other humans on here. I know. Any secret, you can type questions in if you have them. Let us know. I would like to know a little bit more about their software. Oh my goodness, such a great job. Oh, look at them. Yeah, we did lose them. Thanks, Sally. You're so great. My question for them was, and I'm going to give them a moment or two to try to come back, but in case it makes anyone else think. So right now what's happening is they mentioned a system called Sierra or Minerva. Minerva is the customer facing side or the patron facing side of the library system. And then Sierra is the back end, which connects all these libraries. Hi.
Right, the Ethernet cable unplugged, which is just why we need the Ethernet cable.
We totally got it. Well, it was good because I was just explaining the difference for those who might not know the difference between Sierra and Minerva. So Minerva, when you join Minerva, it's called kind of join Minerva, but you're really joining this back system called Sierra 2, which is it's a consortium of a certain amount of libraries in this one state in the United States. And so as such, there are certain rules and regulations and all sorts of things. But my question for that was, are you finding that meets your needs? Are you finding that people are able to get the tools all right? They understand what they're getting? Or are they really coming in more, it's more of a browsing situation at this point? They're like, I heard about this. I'm going to go and take a look. Because we found it, a basic catalog or like a book worked really well for a certain amount of time, and then it just really failed. Then we needed to upgrade.
I mean, a lot of people kind of wander in and look around and say, what is this? Or have heard about it and kind of come in immediately wanting a piece of equipment. And there's quite a whole list for most pieces.
Okay.
And then at that point, I think there's several people many people who have held books through the Minerva system. So they already know how to do it. It's the exact same process, but then a lot of folks who have never done that. So we either try to walk them through the process, kind of pull out the laptop, say, this is where you go, so they can do it themselves, or we just put them on the hold list through the back end Sierra side of things. But we like to show people so the next time around, they know how to do it.
Yeah. And so, Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, and it works a little differently in South Portland, but this website does work both in a standard web browser on like a computer, but it also works on a phone.
Yes.
By works, it operates. It's not going to win any awards,
Not
yeah.
speedy, it's not easy, it's not intuitive on a phone. But it can be done. Let's just put it that way.
And there's no pictures, correct?
Correct.
Yep. And did you keep the cataloging pretty simple? Like, hey, this is the tool. You can find out more if you come get it. Or did you like put in the weight, the numbers, the specification? You did the mark records.
No, it's very basic.
Yes.
Okay.
Electric lawnmower, non-mulching, electric lawnmower mulch.
Well, because we've seen both sides, right? And like there's pluses and benefits to some of these questions are because of, kind of differences we've seen throughout and the choices people have made and why they've made those choices.
And part of it was we wanted to get it in and going last year.
Yeah.
And it worked. I mean, there were a lot of checkouts last year, so we didn't see the immediate need to upgrade the cataloging piece because things were being used and there wasn't much sitting around. Even now there is, half the lawnmowers are out. And there's 2 leaf blowers. And I mean, things are not here because they're not finding them in the catalog. So they kind of intuitively can find them. And that's the goal. And I think most people don't need to know, the cutting width of an electric lawnmower. They're just, they know they're going to do 10 swipes up and down their lawn. And, they don't need to know that it's a 15-inch, cutting area for each pass or things like that.
But if people do have questions, we have a little flip phone here. So people can call if they don't know how to reserve something, we can do it for them, or they just need more information about the specifications.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay, well, I want to recognize what time it is, which is it is 2:18. So now if you have those burning questions for this team, this is when you get in. But I will warn you, you know how to find them because they are both public servants and we are so grateful for this. And if you folks do find that there are things that the rest of the team should know, please use the email list. Like that grant, I think, is a great resource, at least for if you're in this region. But even if you're not in this region, that might mean there are similar grants where you are, right? And I think that's really beneficial for all of us to know, or maybe even to join up with. Like, I don't need as many electric lawnmowers as y'all have. I mean, I want them, but
Not yet.
I have not yet. Oh
Okay.
yeah. But, I think there's some potential to join up in the future and kind of benefit from this when I really loved how you folks looked at the greenhouse gas emissions of them and kind of, it looked like, did you strategically choose your tools based on that? Or was it a little bit of feedback you were hearing from programs? How did you choose those tools?
Well, the lawnmowers we chose because that's an incredibly popular piece of equipment, but lawnmowers actually generally aren't as horribly polluting as things that are, I won't get too technical, but two-stroke engines are smaller pieces that are usually handheld. So everything but our lawnmowers are handheld pieces of equipment that are usually two-stroke.
Yeah.
So we did try to hit the items that are popular, but also the most egregiously polluting on the gas-powered side of things.
And now I'm
awesome.
going to ask Susan to plug her ears. Because many of you may not know South Portland. I know Hazel does because she's laughing at me. We are sometimes viewed as being rather radical in our pesticide management and non-gas powered tools. And so I think it's something that was more readily acceptable here and understandable. It is something that we have had large community conversations about.
Yes.
And a lot of information has been provided, and I'm sure Susan would be happy to share that with anyone who might like to have it. But South Portland is rather known for their no cutting down trees and no pesticide, which many other communities are now joining. We kind of like led the fight. Yeah. And also restricting this, trying to restrict the sale of gasoline powered lawn equipment. Which I know there are probably people on this going, where do they live? But yes, we live in Southern Maine and our community tends to take these things very seriously. And I think after the most recent storms, they are taking it much more seriously because we saw some real climate issues and changes to our shorefront. And people can no longer say, oh, it happens once every 20 years. We had 3 very serious storms which wiped out very important and dearly beloved parts of South Portland this winter. And so people are much less willing to say, oh, climate change isn't a real thing. I think there has been a real consciousness raising that it is a real thing. And we have started, we do this, and we've started a huge emergency preparedness program that we're also doing through the library. And people are really willing to hear this and they want to be educated on it and they are actively participating. So feel free to correct.
Oh, no, I would agree with everything you said.
But I don't think that is the case in every community in Maine. But maybe we can lead you all there.
But I will add, greenhouse gas emissions is obviously, as the sustainability department, our #1 priority, but a lot of communities have been kind of starting to push or mandate folks to electric lawn equipment because everyone started working from home in 2020 and people realized that gas-powered lawn equipment is really loud and really irritating. So a lot of folks have transitioned more because of a noise thing or something related to a noise ordinance rather than it necessarily being to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but it's a win-win.
Yeah, I think everyone's seen whether it's an equity component or a aging component as you're losing your hearing. There's just so many aspects. Jean, you had a comment or a question?
Yeah, actually, a couple of both. So one, the electric lawn equipment has gotten also so much better. We had started our tool library 10 years ago, and the electric lawn equipment was just really starting. It was kind of okay. These days, it can be as powerful or more powerful and easier to use than the gasoline powered. So I think there's less of that even in other communities of like, oh, why do you just have electric? It's not going to be able to do what I want. It is actually great. So I think there's a lot more acceptance, even for the communities that don't necessarily aren't as focused on climate issues, and that is great. One thing and then sort of second comment, I'll make an offer if you're looking for some solutions to some of the things you mentioned about being able to have volunteers use your catalog system, have reservations for dates in the future. If you do find you need to track maintenance, feel free to reach out. We have a platform that can do all of those things and potentially integrate with your public library. So happy to have a conversation, but no pressure there. And then one other question, and I'm from my turn. So, and again, sort of don't want to sort of push anything. And then one other question, are you thinking about expanding the program with the success of the electric tool library to either other types of items, other types of things to help with electrification? Like we've seen other energy efficiency tools specifically for lending, induction cooktops to sort of get people to know, oh, it's like really awesome to use induction. It's actually even better than gas, or potentially city government sharing resources between. So it's great to help everyone in. So since you are a government department, how do you basically get other city resources shared either between departments or if there's excess equipment shared with the community? Have sustainability working on those types of things?
Yeah, that's a great question. So at the moment, we don't have plans to expand into other types of equipment. We have gotten a lot of questions about like drills and other kind of like handheld pieces. But since one of the major goals is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, the drills that folks are using they're already electric. So that doesn't really help achieve that goal. But the induction cooktops, for example, that would help to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And I think that's a really interesting idea. I have had people also ask about snow blowers, which
Absolutely.
yeah, we are in this little unheated shed out here, so it's a little rough. It would be rough operating in the winter to provide that kind of service, or to be open all year round to provide additional services. Maybe if the location were to change, that would be something that we considered. But would love to expand and include more things. At this point, it's again just funding and space, but I think that's a really great idea. And then was your follow-up question?
Oh, I was just asking, so you mentioned, so expanding not just to residents, but also potentially sharing equipment between, basically South Portland departments. So one of the reasons I ask, and so reducing consumption of equipment, so purchasing new equipment, maximizing the use of equipment, that also reduces greenhouse gas emissions because you're not doing resource extraction, transportation of those items, storage and eventual disposal, not as directly. So something like what you're doing is you have, it's like sort of double. You're reusing items so people don't have to produce more to then also get them to switch from using gas powered. But even just reusing equipment in general reduces greenhouse gas emissions and all the biodiversity loss and everything else that comes with it. So, yeah. So I was wondering, do you have other sharing type programs, even if it's not necessarily with the public?
We don't have any other sharing programs that I know of, but
Not yet. Let's just
Yet.
put it that way.
Yes.
Not yet.
Perfect.
So these two troublemakers just started last year. So this is the great part is that if they did
Awesome
this
job.
in not even a year, like this in half a year, I think they're coming back next spring to tell us a few more things, is what I'm thinking. On that note, I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. It is 2 minutes to 2:30. I do want to call out that, my message is too long. Bailey's here next week, and she is really cool because she is now in a public library. I don't know if it's a municipal department about you folks or not, but it's up in Millinocket, and they got a big grant, and they lend kayaks and bikes and things. So it's a weird cross between, in the weird in the best way, between a public library and a gear library. And she's all prepared for all of our questions about helmets and lice and tree and movement and how to do this safely and all this stuff. So that should be a great presentation too. So, but thanks, Susan and Lisa. You folks are lovely. Thank you so much for being here, sharing your time. Everyone who came, thank you so much for those excellent questions and being part of the team. And so glad you're doing this, and I'm so copying you and coming to visit. So
Well, if people have questions, please reach out to us. We
Yeah.
are more than happy to help. We're more than happy to share information we provide to our public and our patrons. And if you have ideas on other things we could do better, let us know, because we're always trying.
I think we'll be collaborating in the future. All right. Thank you all.
No.
Can't wait to see you again.
Thank you
Take
so much
care.
for having
Bye,
us.
guys. Thanks.